Good evening.
Hey, how you doing, Banana?
I'm doing good, Zen. How are you doing?
Another day, busy at work, so my day's been going by pretty quick.
Oh man, yours too, huh? I went home for lunch, and my daughter came home, and I thought she was home for her lunch break, but she wasn't. It was like 5 o'clock.
That's funny.
The time just flew by today. I was like, wow, we got spaces in an hour. What?
Yeah, so what, you had to go and hit the road again?
No, I just went home. I usually go home in the afternoon and eat, exercise, eat, then come back to the office, especially on Mondays. So,
oh, nice.
That's
so
what
you normally do it that way.
Yeah, yep. It just for some reason my mental clock was off today for some reason. So, it happens. And you're doing good then, eh?
Yeah, doing good. Prices were moving up a little bit on PulseChain today. That was nice. Looks like they're still a little up, so that's cool.
Yes. Yeah. I've learned to dial back my deck screener from the daily on occasion, especially during a time like this when things just start moving, because I want to see consistency, so I dial it back to like maybe even the 1 hour, and yeah, it's looking good. I think Pulse was pulling us up a little bit today. Maybe Bitcoin, Ethereum, both of those were rallying a bit.
Yeah, it looked like the whole market was kind of moving up in general. I think yesterday Richard had a pretty interesting tweet about that, actually. We can go over it if you want in a little bit, but in short, he was kind of talking about his tickers when the market moves up more recently have been moving up more, which is kind of a good metric for, I think, our community to look at. In general, it's just like, hey, the market still hasn't came to ETH, and judging by all the past performances of Richard's products, when value flows into ETH, his products move up a lot more. And in that event, every time values flow into ETH, like pTGC and UFO, have moved up even more as well. So yeah. I think, in short, we're waiting for the market, and hopefully that's coming here soon.
Yeah, I like what Ty dropped pretty sure he dropped it in the chat, but it was a Twitter post about the FOMC meeting in September, and how I think about 80%, if I remember correctly, 80% of the whoever these guys are, they think that there's going to be a rate cut in September. So my takeaway from that, from bouncing off that idea from a couple of my buddies, they're like, yeah, investors will start front running that rate cut anticipation. So, maybe this is part of that anticipation or part of that front running.
Yeah, another thing is, even with this last one with the rate cuts, there's a few people on the board that even went against Powell and said they think we need rate cuts right now. And I guess that hasn't happened in like 30 years or something like that. Which is a pretty crazy metric.
Yeah, I heard about that.
That's pretty crazy. They've been on key with each other for 30 years, and that one was, one of the outliers. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean that's as long as some founders I know are old.
That's pretty old. Falling apart.
Yeah, man. Let's see what else. I'll pull up that Richard Hart tweet so we can.
It's a short one. It's not too juicy, but it's kind of a nice reminder.
Yeah. And don't let, this is for the audience. Don't let Zen and I hog the show, guys. I mean, jump in. We're ready. We're ready for an interruption.
Did you?
Okay, cool.
Did you talk about the LP ads?
Not yet.
No, not yet. Hey, I wanted to share an onboarding story today.
Please. Maybe we should start with, let's start with that.
Okay, so I am onboarding my dad in some crypto, and it made sense to go through Kraken. At least that was the easiest one to get him to sign up on. And we transferred some money into Kraken, and they held it for a week before they allowed him to transfer to his own, to a Trezor I set up for him. And then when we converted the USDC or the USD to ETH, and I told Kraken to send it to the new Trezor address, and we did that noon at lunch on Thursday, and it didn't show up until this morning around 10 o'clock.
What?
So this whole weekend, I've been like checking the address, going, crap, where'd it go? Crap, did I type the address wrong? Crap, did I do something wrong? Did I lose, a few $1,000 here for my dad? And then this morning it just showed up. And all I could think about was how early we are, how difficult it is to get through all the layers of garbage into PulseChain, and how early we are. Because I finally got it, and I breached it over and got it in, but man, that was difficult.
Yeah, the inefficiency for new customers it's the worst inefficiencies in all of the industry, damn near, dude.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want you to leave their little garden, their little ecosystem.
Account with these guys, like if you've been there forever, everything just goes just like that. But if you're new, they're gonna hold you up all day.
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't let him even begin the ETH transfer for a week, and then when I initiated, it was another 4 days before it finally went through. Like, I didn't tell my dad because I was really freaking out that I had typed the address wrong, and I just lost, a few $1,000 into the, some random wallet somewhere. But
did you buy a stable coin on Kraken first and then ask them to swap it to ETH?
No, we wired in a few $1,000, and it was just USD, wasn't a stable coin, and we transferred it directly to. We bought Ethereum in. Well, see, I did it in two loads. The first load I did, I bought USDC and I sent it to the wallet, and that took a few hours the first time. The second time, I realized he had no gas to even do the bridge over. So I said, okay, next time we're just going to buy Ethereum. So we bought the rest of this Ethereum, and I transferred it. It took 4 days for the ETH to finally come through.
Wow.
Yeah, just so you know too. Me personally, now I'm using Liberty Swap because of the fact that once you have the USD in your wallet and you send USD, they're taking care of the gas fees. So it kind of gives you that on the other end.
But you're paying a 0.3% fee. Is that really worth it compared to using the regular PulseChain bridge?
There is no fee, I don't believe, to come in with the PulseChain bridge. I don't know. Can anybody confirm if you have a fresh wallet? If you have a brand new fresh wallet on PulseChain, is it still like dropping off some Pulse in your wallet so you can use it for gas?
Yeah, that's what it said when I started the transfer. It said, new users get some Pulse to do transactions. It said that at the bottom. When I did it, I actually didn't, do it all the way to transfer. I went to the bridge. I went to Liberty Swap first, and they took 0.3%.
If you don't have to pay that with the bridge on the way in.
Yep. Anyways, I just wanted to give you a story on that onboarding people isn't easy. And then my dad was visiting his sister, and so my aunt got on the phone and said, "What's all this crypto thing your dad's talking about?" And I tried to explain it to her for about half an hour. And she said, "But why is it worth anything? Why is it worth anything?" I said, "Well, what's the dollar worth? The dollar is only worth what you believe it's worth."
Why is the dollar still traded in markets in Nairobi? Because they don't trust their own currency. They rather trust the U.S. dollar. But one day that won't be the case anymore. And
yeah, I just nowadays when I got them asking that, man, I just say, look, the governments are now turning it into reserves. It's a legitimate currency now. You got to understand that. It just is.
Yep. I was saying that all the big financial firms and Wall Street are buying the stuff because they can sell it. And she said, what do you mean they can sell? Well, I said, they can stake it and make a yield staking it. And then they sell it as ETFs and they don't have to pay any of the yield out to people. So it's the most profitable thing they've come across in a long, long time. And she didn't get it. She's like, wait a minute, they're making all this interest and they're not passing on? Yes, that's why they love selling it. They can take your money, make interest on it, and then you just hope that it goes up in value. You're not actually getting any yield when you buy these ETFs, or at least the current ETFs.
Good job on the onboarding, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. It was a little difficult. I had to hold my dad's thumb it was about 3 or 4 weeks before they finally agreed to it, and about a week to get it all through. But yeah, it's not easy. That's all I'm saying. We're so early for this. And we're going to reap the rewards when it finally takes off.
Yeah, when they open up the gates to the world, we'll start reaping those rewards. It does get faster with Kraken. I've been with them for 4 years. They've been my exchange, and it does get a lot faster. Like I've wired money a lot of times over to Kraken, and it'll be there within 24 hours usually, and then I can deploy it right away. Nowadays, anyhow.
You think that, so because it was a new account, they decided to hold on to it for 4 or 5 days?
That's what I'm guessing. Yep.
100%. Wow. Yeah, that's the MO of sex exchanges, man. When you create a new account, they look at you like a potential just bad apple. It's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm going to mute for a while. I got other things.
It makes it really hard to onboard, but for security purposes, it's kind of nice because if someone got a hold of your credit cards and stuff like that, and if they just let those transactions go to MetaMask wallets off chain right away, it would create a huge issue for them. You know, every time someone's credit card would be taken, they would just go to an exchange real quick, buy the crypto, and then get that value over to MetaMask real quick. So that's why those new customers and stuff like that, there is that hold just in case your credit card or accounts are compromised.
Yeah. Let's talk about that burn that Mando mentioned. Zen?
Yeah, but yeah, real quick before we move on.
Sure.
Thanks for sharing that story, Blackthorn. I know exactly where you're coming from. Every time I've onboarded fresh people, it's a week and a half journey with them to get it all finished for the most part.
Yeah.
But yeah, so today pTGC did a LP ad with Hex and then burnt the LP ad. It was roughly $26,000 of LP with Hex. So we added to that LP pool today. You know, a great value generation source for pTGC, increasing that burnt liquidity in the system. Plus, Hex has been showing some good energy more recently. It's been increasing the most out of the RH tickers, and obviously PulseChain's been moving up as well. So we think that will help with the price appreciation of pTGC over the long term. Plus the value generation has always been great off of that pair as well. So just increase that pool a little bit. I think it increased by 3% or something just today.
Yeah, 3%. We think, oh, what's 3%? Well, you do that week after week, month after month. It's like dollar cost averaging. It really adds up. It's like people voting in Pulsefolio. We've got some ground to cover, but get several dozen people in there voting every day consistently, and it will add up quickly. Not to change the subject, but just to illustrate it.
Yes, 13 grand of a buy on the side for PTGC, 13 grand for Hex. Supporting Hex, slam it in the LP and burn it. That's how Grays is a real currency, because it has a ton of LP.
Yep.
It's been when you've been watching Hex now, with how scarce Hex is, compared to the world, the potential of the world, Hex always is a massive move up. Hex wants to go, as soon as the market moves. It's going to be a lightning shot, it seems to me.
Yeah, I saw some stuff on Twitter today that had me pretty off my chair.
Yeah, when those that Grays always does multiples. So I think it's just smart to realize, the way that this machine works, like we're right on the tipping point of like the leg up. So it's just smart to smash some more cores in there right now.
Yeah, and even when smashing some LP into the system, we're buying the PTGC side out of the existing liquidity pools as well, which is increasing the value of PTGC. So that's cool, also.
It's crazy, Zen, to think that we're still slamming LP at the cores, like down here.
Yeah.
We did a Hex one a week ago too. So that was like the second Hex one within the last couple weeks. I forget what the price of Hex was at that time. Could have been a little more, could have been a little less. I think it was less than we are now, though. And if you think about it, that's an extra 50, 60 grand in LP with that Hex pool. And we kind of just did it just as a little, hey, let's mix it up a little bit. And hey, this might be our last chance to get some of these LPs bolstered up before Richard starts to do his thing. Maybe we should grab a little bit more, even though we definitely have a ton, larger than the majority of anything on chain. But that's the beauty of the system, is we have this constant value generation flow going on. We can focus on buy and burns. We can focus on LP ads. Obviously, both have their pros. So,
yeah, that was a $27,000 LP ad. It was just under 1.8 million Hex. That was on the 25th of last month.
I think that's 5 or 6 squid positions in PTDC. Not quite a dolphin, but close. 5 or 6.
Yeah, it was 20 million PTGC paired with 1.77 million Hex.
Oh, okay.
And then today it was pretty much right around the same.
7 squid positions. Kay Hudson is asking about the difference between burnt liquidity and not burnt liquidity. What is good about burnt liquidity, he asks.
Yeah, this is actually a really good question. I've had a few people ask me even what PLP tokens are and stuff like that recently too. So this is probably a good thing to kind of just go over and explain to some other people who possibly are new or don't completely understand what a PLP token is, or what burning the liquidity does or how that actually works. So when you provide liquidity in PulseX, is you're putting your PTGC and your Hex, for an example, in the PulseX smart contract, and PulseX gives you a PLP token as a claim check for that PTGC and for that Hex. So your value actually gets put in a smart contract along with everyone else's value in that liquidity pool, or the rest of your liquidity ads or whatever you want to call it. And it's all there together. They're all in a pool together. All that liquidity is in a pool. And what you have is your PLP tokens. You could, let's say there's 150 PLP tokens in circulation and you have 50 of them. Well, that means you have 33.3% of that pool. That's your ownership of what's in that liquidity pool, because the quantity of PTGC and Hex in that pool is constantly varying. as the prices are shifting up or down. So what that is a share of the percentage. You can then go and turn those PLP tokens back into the PTGC in Hex at any point, right? This is what most people do with their liquidity is they'll provide liquidity for a little bit, earn additional APY. When prices hit or timelines hit what they're looking for, they'll go and turn those PLP tokens back in as the claim check for their assets. And even protocols do this, right? Protocols own their PLP tokens. What PTGC has done with a lot of its LP, majority of it being the Richard Hart tickers, is when we get the PLP tokens, we actually send those tokens to the debt address to show that that liquidity is never going to be removed from the system. And that liquidity is for the system long-term forever. That's technically one of the big reasons why PTGC will last as long as PulseChain. There's millions of dollars of burnt liquidity in the system currently. So as long as PulseChain's around, those liquidity pools will constantly move, which makes the market makers fix prices, which then we generate revenue off, which pretty much just makes it to where PTGC will exist as long as PulseChain exists. It will continue to do what it does. But so we burn these PLP tokens, making it clear that that liquidity will never be removed from our community. A lot of protocols, a lot of other protocols, a lot of even individuals will provide liquidity within a system temporarily until their numbers are hit. So you could be later on in the market and, you know, your tokens could be up 50x. You could be living on cloud 9. You could see all this liquidity there. A lot of people don't realize a lot of times those liquidity pools are owned by users or by the protocol's owner. And at some point, sometimes those protocol owners decide that they want to remove liquidity for their own personal gain or even just the thin liquidity to make the product more volatile. So what we're kind of showing within our system is, hey, this liquidity is going to be here forever. It's burnt within the system. And all we're doing is sending the PLP tokens, the claim check for that value, to the debt address, making it to where we can never actually pull that liquidity, but the liquidity is still accessible by all the PTGC holders. So if you're an owner of PTGC, you're actually able to access that liquidity. When you exit PTGC, you get to generate revenue off of that liquidity when you're in PTGC. But obviously, if you leave and access some of that liquidity, you're out. You know, you're selling your PTGC, we're generating revenue off of that. And then the people who do decide to stay later get to reap the rewards of a bigger and stronger foundation.
Yeah, it's just to just really simplify, this system generates revenue. That revenue then buys PTGC and either burns it, getting it out of there, but in this case, it'll buy the PTGC with the revenue that the system generates. It'll buy, for example, like it just did the HEX. It puts the PTGC in the HEX and then LP, and then removes the ability to ever remove it. And what that does is that gives that value, that capital, to the community. So the system's literally generating millions in revenue, buying up PTGC, buying up other blue chip assets, pairing them in the liquidity pools, burning or removing access to ever remove that, giving it to the community of holders.
Mm-hmm.
That's why PTGC is so awesome. Because it's as solid as a rock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, you know, that's kind of a great example of like the actions that are happening, maybe not every day, but every few days, every other day. These actions technically, as long as volume exists, which we generate volume mechanically just through the market moving up and down, we actually believe we're close to all-time lows of volume on chain. So it should actually keep increasing. But just in general, there's going to be a constant inflow of value forever as long as PulseChain exists. And as that value gets generated, we're constantly going to be able to add to the growth of PTGC over time, if that's through buy and burns, LP ads with great undervalued tickers we believe in and want to support, right? We want to support the things we believe in on this chain. not only by our asset moving up, but also getting some LP in with them, et cetera, like Hex. But then as time goes on, like this is just still going to happen, right? Like maybe we're up 50x and the system wants to start adding some LP with stable coins. Maybe PulseChain's up 50x and we want to get a large liquidity pool with ETH or wrapped Bitcoin, right? That we have a lot of possibilities to grow into the future. And that's what I think makes pTGC so powerful over time is what we see today is just the beginning of a huge growing machine over time. And then obviously in the future with the success of PulseChain, these value amounts that we're able to take action on daily should be increasing drastically. So instead of, a $25,000 liquidity ad with Hex near the bottom of the chain, which very easily could be worth with a 10x of Hex and 10x of pTGC, it's technically a $200,000 liquidity ad, right? Because everything would grow together. Mm-hmm. So that's like another crazy metric to kind of think about is that everything we're adding right here expands out evenly with the growth of these assets. But then even once we're up 10, 20, 50x, the value generation will be that much greater, but then we can actually generate so much more value. We could be doing, a $100,000, $200,000 liquidity ad with stables or with ETH or, some of these other valuable assets that exist on chain that are directly bridgeable out, to give real legacy finance backing to a protocol like this, etc.
Yeah. And K Hudson, he says, so it's impossible to rug then, the burnt liquidity. And yes, it's impossible to rug because any tokens or PLP tokens, which are sent to that dead address, are literally impossible to ever access. There's no admin keys for that dead address. And it does continually move the price floor up.
Yes, 100%. You cannot rug pTGC. Like literally the community could walk away from pTGC, everyone could sell off, and there would still be value left. And that value would still move up and down every single day, and it would still generate revenue. Like literally the machine, if PulseChain lives longer than us, the machine lives longer than us with these kind of features put into it.
Right. Jim Horton is asking, he says, if Hex would do a 30x, let's say.
Yeah, a lot of protocols will lock liquidity, right? So they'll go to their community and say, okay, we locked it for 90 days. They'll put it in a smart contract that counts down.
Not good enough.
Some will just put it in there and you just take the chance of it being removed,
Yeah.
But Grace protocol it's burned. It's burned in the system. It's given to the holders.
It's kind of like burning the ships, man. I mean, literally, there's no way to go back and access that liquidity. But for the holders, the comfort there is that you're not going to be rugged. The founders, the devs, nobody's going to take that money from the protocol.
Well, at the end of the day, what it means at the base level is wealth is being given to holders.
Sure.
That's what it means. And revenue generating wealth is being handed to the community of holders.
Jim Horton is asking, he says, if Hex would do a 30x, let's say, what does that do for pTGC? He said, I heard like $10 million into Hex moves it to like 36 cents. So I was doing a little on the moon math calculator, just doing some estimates. I really couldn't come up with anything except for doing some comparisons to some comparisons to PLS.
Yeah. So with our system, it depends what the other assets we're tied to do at that same time. So we're connected to not only Hex, we're connected to Pulse, we're connected to PulseX, we're connected to most. Like there's a variety of tokens that are within the pTGC liquidity web, which is what makes us an index of pretty much all the blue chips on the chain. if Hex was to move up 30x, and let's say we had no buy or sell pressure on pTGC as a single product, and the other RH tickers in the rest of the market did nothing, right? Well, we would end up with a mean and average of that. So we wouldn't get all those X's that Hex received if it was the only mover. But that's usually never the case, right? When value flows into PulseChain to even get Hex, it has to go into PulseChain first, so it has to increase PulseChain. When that value increases PulseChain, it's not only increasing PulseChain, it's also increasing everything that's connected to PulseChain, which is pretty much everything on chain, right? So by just Hex being successful, we have to make a educated assumption that everything else is going to move up as well.
Yeah.
You could make the guess that, hey, maybe it won't move up as much. Maybe you get a 20x from everything else in average, and maybe Hex does a little bit more. Maybe that's at a 30x. So what we would end up just due to our liquidity is the average of all of our liquidity, right? So, we could end up with maybe a 25x just from what we're connected to. And then what we receive as our X multiplier or divider is based on our buy and sell pressure on our specific token. So if we have more value flowing into pTGC than moving out, which is usually the case when prices are going up, because literally that means more value is moving on chain than moving off chain. So that's why that usually works in an amplified way. When value starts moving on the pulse chain, it usually makes it to where you do X's over that, because it literally means money is flowing into the market. So we can make an educated guess that when Hex moves up, all these other assets are going to move up. We actually can also make an educated guess that we are going to move up as an X multiplier over these movements as well. That obviously can't be a guarantee. There could be sell pressure, but in the past, when Hex did a 5, 10x, when PulseChain did a 5x, pTGC did like a 45, 50x due to this X multiplier system, like how these things operate. So there's no guarantee, to answer the question short. If Hex does a 30x, there's no guarantee of the amount of X's pTGC will do, but we will be increasing in price due to the fact that Hex is increasing in price. If we move up less X's, it's either due to sell pressure or due to our other connected assets not performing as well. But we very much can move up more by buy pressure and then possibly our other assets doing better, right? We personally have been really thinking that Hex might make some solid moves here soon. That's one of the reasons why we've been bolstering up that LP pool a little bit more. So that average is a little bit larger in our web.
Perfect.
Yeah, also, X is heavily bonded with RH's other core tickers. So if it goes and does a 30x run, it's bonded with PulseChain and PulseX.
Yeah.
And we also have cores. We also have those cores in the LP bonded with pTGC. So you get the average, you get the mean of all these things doing these things in connectivity together.
Yeah, the success of the assets actually strengthens the connected assets, which then makes the other assets also successful. And this increases our average amongst our liquidity. And the same goes for us, right? As we increase, we're actually increasing the value of Hex. We're actually increasing the value of PulseX because we're also tied to those assets. So just as the same when they move up, they increase the value of our asset. When we move up, we increase the value of their assets.
Alex Knob says, amazing content, guys. Keep it up.
Every week for 2 years now, guys.
Yeah, I think, what pTGC has kind of created, and RH was kind of creating already with his own web, with his own tickers, but we definitely kind of stepped up and created a more in-depth web, not only connecting ourselves to the Richard tickers, but also connecting through us some of the other assets that don't have LP directly with some of his like Hex and PulseX and we're connecting most to Hex. And what this is kind of creating on PulseChain is very unique to PulseChain as far as a chain, because on other blockchains, each token on the blockchain is all, for the most part, connected to ETH or connected to a stable. And what that kind of has created is a very player versus player system on other chains, because the growth of SHIB doesn't necessarily help the growth of Floki, if that's a decent analogy. But if they were bonded together, they would actually be helping each other as they appreciate in price. This doesn't happen on other chains. So when we've actually bonded ourselves with enough liquidity to matter, like this doesn't really work if you only have $10,000 of liquidity because you're just the tail to the dog or a hair to the dog. You're just so irrelevant. But the fact that pTGC and UFO have been able to get a very large share of the liquidity of these blue chip assets, it's the amount of liquidity that really matters. We now have actually created a system where all of these assets are now on the same team. The success of pTGC and the success of UFO actually gives Hex or gives PulseX or gives Most or gives Pump or gives PDI a better chance of succeeding because we're actually appreciating their price through no X's on their specific token. But then it works the other way as well. As these assets are successful, as these assets have good days or good weeks, they're actually appreciating the price of pTGC and UFO with no additional buys on the pTGC asset. So now what we kind of are doing is it's more of a team sport instead of a player versus player sport. And as certain team members on our team have good days or good weeks, it's actually making our success more likely. And as Richard's tickers come in and, you know, are successful on their own, they'll make it more likely for us to succeed. And as we have good days and good weeks and good months, we make it more likely for them to succeed.
Yeah.
It's a very unique situation. I don't think it's done on any other blockchain before, and I'm beyond excited to see how that expands out over time.
Well, we are too, Zen. Don't mistake that. We are very excited to see where this thing is going to go. I'm loving some of the new questions. It's clear that we've onboarded 788 people in July because there are questions, and this is good. And I'm hoping we onboard twice that many this month, and then we have twice as many questions. Alex Cobb asks, in terms of liquidity in UFO, if it is done by users, and it is, UFO liquidity is provided by users, isn't it then major liquidity providers can pull a liquidity out? So would you say there is more risk in UFO? And I would say that, you know, if I was to answer this question, and I guess I am, is that one of the carrots of keeping your UFO in liquidity is the share rate, the UFO share rate that you get when you enter the LP, which is simply a reflection, literally a reflection of how much UFO you put into that LP. If you exit the LP, you might lose that. There's actually a very good possibility you will lose your share rate. If you ever wanted it back, you would have to pay more. For example, I have an experimental wallet with 1 million UFO paired with PLS, which I made in probably May of 2024. There's like 230,000. I looked at it today, something like 230,000 UFO in that LP. If I unpaired it, I would have to buy the difference in UFO and the difference in the paired asset and then repair it to get my 1 million UFO share rate. And it's the share rate that is paying you the yield from the 3% of the community fee. So that's the one reason that, you know, the people that have big bags and are in the LP, they're going to think twice. If they're familiar with the share rate, they're going to really have to think about whether they want to unpair and forsake that share rate. It's almost like a T-share, man. You're giving up your revenue generating bookmark in the system, if you will.
Yeah, I'll chime in on that. So UFO has a mechanic built into it called UFO shares that actually incentivizes people to hold on to their LPs because their UFO shares are technically, if UFO keeps going up in price, like Banana said, his UFO shares are actually worth more than the UFO and the PLS that are in those pools. So the code, how it's designed, is actually incentivizing him to continue to add LP, to continue to remain in that liquidity pool. But yes, to answer your question, with the UFO system, since that is 100% community owned, there is that risk of the community, pulling LP and taking profits, etc. Keep in mind, this is 90% of all crypto. A lot of cryptos that exist, the majority of the liquidity is provided by community members, etc. A great example is PulseChain, right? A lot of the liquidity on PulseChain, PulseX, Inc., Hex is all provided by the community via the farms. It's pretty much very similar in design as far as you are incentivizing people to back the price of their own assets through an incentivization. UFO also does that same thing, but it also has some additional features that make the incentivization even better for the people who were earlier in the system, making it very, very tricky of a decision to close it down, right? They'd be giving up very early UFO share rates. So this is what we believe is actually going to encourage these players to remain in UFO long term than just leaving with, some extra profits.
I would add one more thing too. The individuals that created and hold pTGC, some of the larger individuals there, they also own these LPs. And the LPs for UFO were partially designed to not only benefit UFO, but they were also designed to directly benefit pTGC. So these individuals not only own UFO, but they also own pTGC. And by pulling LP, not only do you lose your share rates, which are very, very valuable, because the second that you do that, it's like giving up your Hex T shares that you locked in, the first week of Hex launching, right? When they were like $1,200, $1,200. Now they're $30,000 or whatever, right? But the reality is that you don't want to do that because it also massively benefits your other bag, which is called pTGC. The larger the liquidity web gets in UFO, and the more money that's being moved around in the LP, the more liquidity that's being provided for users to use through UFO, it generates a massive buy and burn on the pTGC token, which they also own, right? So it's even more reinforcing than just thinking about the UFO protocol, because it also directly impacts pTGC as well.
I'm not sure if this is maybe I missed something in some of the description there, Mando and Barry, but or just say Zen. But just a clarification that I wanted to ask. If I remember correctly, an XT share doesn't actually pay you out until you claim, correct?
Well,
I know this isn't a Hex discussion, but I just want to clarify, because that would be different to UFO if that's the case.
Well, no, nobody. I mean, very few people understand these systems like we do. I mean, we've been there from day one. But with a Hex T share, you earn a certain amount of Hex every single day.
Okay.
Now, but those Hex are not available to you until that. Okay.
Right, and that's, and again, like I say, this is not a Hex discussion, but I think that's a big distinction between UFO and a T-share, is that if I remember correctly, you can collect your UFO earnings.
No, it's not. That's not the metric that we're talking about.
Okay, my apologies.
It's the fact that every day, right? Every time there's, it's a little bit technical. But essentially, the T as a Hex holder, the T share rate, which allows you to mint new Hex, it's always ratcheting up against hex in the system so that no one can game the system, right? In the same way, if you lock in a UFO share rate early on, as the price of UFO goes up, if you end that LP, you've just lost that share rate in a similar way to where if you locked in a 5555 stake the first week of hex, you've got the most phenomenal share rate. You're getting way more hex than anybody else. But if you early end that stake, you wouldn't get more because the T share rate against the value of hex costs that much more money.
Right, and we saw that. And again, like I said, thanks. I kind of got the hex side of it. I just wanted to understand the difference in mechanism and make sure that I understood it, because I normally, like you do now, I normally explain it based on how hex works, because some people tend to get that a lot quicker because it works like a CD, you know. But anyway, thanks. That helps clarify it. I was just trying to wrap my head around how that mechanism was similar, but that makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
Yeah, Banana's wallet that he has is a great example of like how the UFO share rates are worth more in that specific wallet, because since he's made that LP, UFO has gone up, right? So in that LP pool, he has less UFO than he put in. So he got, when he created it, this was, a year ago or more than a year ago, it has a couple moving factors in it. It has the fact that probably UFO was, I don't know, $1 million or a 500K market cap at that point. So let's say it was a 500K. UFO's almost up, what is that, 80x in that amount of time. So obviously the price of the asset is already up because UFO went up. But since UFO moved up harder than the assets he's connected to, the amount of UFO he has in that LP pool from 1 million UFO to 250,000, you said, Banana?
I'm looking at it.
Correct?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's more like, okay. I think it's 280.
Yeah, but basically
it's close.
80,000. Yeah, so roughly a quarter, right? So since UFO has outperformed the asset it was bonded to, which in this example was Pulse, he has ended up with, a quarter of the amount of UFO than he entered in with. So if he closed this LP pool down right now to just reopen it again, he would be getting a quarter of the amount of yield than he actually gets today, because he locked in a UFO share rate that's way larger than the position that he currently has in this LP pool. If a new user came in with the exact amount of value today that Banana has in that pool, let's say, does it say what that position's worth currently, Banana? Or
I don't have that in front of me, but I have some other interesting data about this position when you're done.
Yeah, so let's say currently that LP position's worth $10,000, right? That's between $5,000 of PLS and $5,000 of UFO. So if he closes that down, that's what he'll receive is $10,000. If he just keeps that, if someone comes in with $10,000 and creates that same LP pair, they would be getting that 250,000 UFO shares, not 1 million. If they wanted to get the same amount of UFO shares as Banana has in that position, they would have to bring in 4 times the amount of value. They would have to bring in $40,000. So that's the incentive for Banana to actually keep LPing, is because the APY that he's receiving in our system is actually worth $40,000, even though his position is only worth $10,000. If he does close it down, what this does is it actually makes it to where everyone else who still is LP providing, it gives them a better UFO share rate, because an early UFO provider has actually closed down their position and left, and newer people do replace that usually, new people coming in later in time, and this is people who came in 2 months later, 4 months later, 6 months later, 1 year later, 2 years later, 5 years later, 10 years later, as long as PulseChain exists and these products have product market fit, and are thriving, people will constantly still come in, and most likely portions will LP provide. And if UFO keeps going up against the assets it's bonded to, that UFO share rate will get less and less and less. But if Banana remains in the system, it will make his position better and better and better for what that position is worth. So that's his incentive.
It's very similar to let's say, for example, like all the biggest, what Richard did with the OA was staking hex. Let's just say he early ended all those stakes. Well, all the people that are still staked, all of a sudden they're getting way more APY now because there's not as much people sitting in the pool. And it's the same thing with UFO share rate. If somebody yanks their LP, the APY that they were earning now is spread out to the people who are still in the system, right? And that $5,000 or that $10,000 initial LP value is now worth $40,000, but he only paid $10,000 for it, right? Which means he's earning the $40,000 position worth of PLS yield with that LP in the UFO platform.
Okay, well, since we've been talking, I did some numbers on it, and I'll spare you the details, but just in very, very simple terms, the value of that 1 million UFO LP today, both sides, is worth $40. Like I said, it's an experimental LP. It's literally worth $40 right now, using round numbers. If I unpaired it, because it only has 260,000 UFO in it right now, I would have to buy the balance to get it back up to 1 million so I could get my 1 million UFO shares back. And I have to buy the balance in PLS also. That would be $30 for each side. So I'd have to spend $60. If I unpaired it right now, I'd have to spend $60 to get those 1 million UFO shares back. And it's only worth $40.
No, you have to spend more than that.
Yeah, you'd have to get way more than that, Banana. You would have to get like
4 times almost.
I just did it on Deck Screener. I looked it up. Let's go through it. Let's go through it.
You said that,
so you still have
the initial. Go ahead, Zan.
Yeah, so you said you still have 280,000. So subtract 280,000 by 1 million.
And that's 740. 740,000. That's $30 worth of UFO. And I would need the other side.
Okay.
I need the other side, which is $30. That's $60 that I would need to come up with to to get the 1 million UFO shares back if I unpaired it right now. That's why I'm not touching my LPs. I am not touching. That is going to be, if I ever unpair an LP, is going to be a very deliberate move, because it's not like moving a token from one wallet to another where it's going to have the same value in your other wallet. No, if you unpair an LP, you literally nuked a share rate. But there's one caveat, and that's if you have more UFO in that pair than when you started. And you can see that if you go to PulseX V2, if you have more UFO in your LP than what you started with, then more UFO in that LP than you have shares on. If you look on the DApp, then you can unpair and pair it back up and have more UFO shares. But I don't know if that's going to happen very often.
Yeah, if you have 240,000 UFO and you started with 1 million, right? You're going to need 74% more UFO. So percentage-wise, it's like 70. It's over 70%.
Yeah, maybe the UFO that you're talking about, Banana, in that wallet is worth less than $20. That's the only other thing I can think of.
Yeah, it's worth about $20. I'm on Deck Screener. 260,000 UFO. Oh, it's $10.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Sorry.
I was like, no, it's way more than that.
Streaming and doing math don't mix. Maybe for you guys. Okay, so let's recap that. So the LP right now is worth $20 because it has $10 worth of UFO in it, $10 worth of PLS. if I unpaired it, I'd have to buy $30 worth of UFO and PLS to get the 1 million UFO shares back. There. Perfect. Thanks for.
You have to add basically 75% to each side, dude.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So nobody in their right mind is going to unpair their LPs if they've got what I call Genesis UFO share rates. If people have Genesis UFO share rates, that understanding how this system works, if you believe in what PulseChain is going to do, those individuals could end up making so much PulseChain from those locked in LP positions that, they know what they own. They also own a lot of pTGC, and those liquidity, those LPs also fuel their bags over there too. So it's a reciprocal, symbiotic kind of system that really incentivizes them to not want to do that in a lot of different ways.
Yes, absolutely. So
it's not like some shit coin that some guy just launched on a blockchain and added some LP. Let's just put it to you that way.
No. So that should answer your question, Alex Cobb. And I will add this. We talk about Genesis LPs. And that's a good term. But I'm going to contend that UFO share rates right now, with Pulse being half of SAC rate, are inexpensive right now.
But they're not Genesis, man.
No, but still, they're. I mean,
yeah, I agree.
A year from now, they're going to look inexpensive. Very.
Yeah, I agree with you. Genesis LPs, man.
Yeah, man.
Got to start using that one now. I know you are.
Yeah, you know it. Making me look good.
That one for you.
You're making me look good, man. Who else wants to come up and talk? Who on YouTube has a question? We're really digging these questions. See, I would like questions. They lead to 10 minutes worth of conversation. It's good. Paul says, when does the sprint race to $1 between pTGC and Hex start? Ooh, good question. When does the race to $1 between pTGC and Hex start? Will pTGC reach it first? Oh, man. I don't know, man. I think, man, does anybody have an opinion on that? I don't want to be comfortable.
Yeah, pTGC's got a ways to go.
That's what I'm thinking. It would be 3,400, right, for $1? Because if we're 34x to a penny now, no, we're not 34. Where are we? 13.
Yeah,
130. 1,300.
1,300x.
Yeah.
1,300x, where Hex is only like 100x away.
Mm-hmm. All we got to do is get to a penny, guys, and we get to see Crypto Stylus peel her tires. You had to been on the stream yesterday to know what I'm talking about.
That's funny. What does that even mean, dude? She gonna peel her tires, dude.
You know what I'm talking about. Smoke them. She's gonna smoke them. Can you see the Asian girl smoking her tires?
She's gonna buy that new car she's been waiting on. That's what she's gonna do.
I told her I want video. Let's see. She's got to get the video going. Hex Elvis asks, can you explain the tweet you posted an hour ago about the whale who just LP'd pTGC and Hex and what the dead address is? We just went over that, Hex Elvis.
Oh, I'll go over it again.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. I've just been calling the dead address the killer whale because it's just been sending pTGC tokens to the dead address, like kind of a pun. Because you know how they like making big holders, like certain whales in this ecosystem. So I've just been calling the dead address the killer whale because every single day it's been buying up pTGC and sending it to the dead address. What the dead address is is it's a wallet that can never sell those tokens. So currently right now within the pTGC debt address, there's roughly $30 million of pTGC, and pretty much every single transaction that happens within pTGC adds to that. So every single day we're constantly adding to that debt address for forever, for as long as PulseChain exists. So some days are more than others. Some days the DAO contributes to it. Some days it's just the automatic code. UFO also contributes to this. But every single day, very similar to PulseX, there's a buy and burn happening within every single transaction, which makes the supply decrease over time. And then recently what happened today is we did an LP ad between pTGC and Hex, and we sent the LP tokens to the debt address. So all of that LP is completely for the users of pTGC's system. So the only person or only people that can access that LP is the pTGC holders. And as long as they stay in the system, they actually get to generate revenue off of that LP that's there. But yeah, the whale, who the whale is, it's not anyone. It's literally just the debt address accumulating more of the supply of pTGC every single day. That's who the killer whale is.
I love that GIF or whatever that video is that comes up on Twitter when you post that. That killer whale beaching itself, grabbing that sea lion or seal, whatever it is. Man, that's some good action.
Technically, it ain't the debt address that's the killer whale. It's the Gray's machine that's the killer whale. that's the damn truth right there, man.
That really is. Okay, so it's Hex has 82 X's to get to $1. pTGC has like 1,300. So Paul, I was thinking, I didn't want to say it out loud, but I think Hex is going to make it to $1 first.
I like the unit bias though, guys. You know, I like the being able to knock off more decimals off of the price.
What do you mean?
Well, what I mean is the price of pTGC is 4 zeros and something right now.
Oh yeah.
And the price of Hex is almost a penny.
Yep.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I like unit bias. I like being able to buy more coins.
Absolutely.
And then I like being able to have the community watch. We've watched.
Oh man.
We've knocked zero after zero after zero after zero off. Right. But remember, it's not about what gets to $1 first. It's not. It's about what gives you more gains.
Yes.
Period.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
Yeah, it's actually crazy how many like brand new people that come into crypto don't understand that the price of the token doesn't mean anything. Like I've had people who I've onboarded who haven't spent a lot of time like educating themselves. They have a very difficult time grasping that idea, and that's like kind of just the normie, right? Like they look at Bitcoin at the price it's at, and they think and then they look at ETH, they think every single crypto under that like has the same supply, and they're all working their way up to those levels as they grow. Yeah. They don't know that every single token has different supplies, right? Yeah. This was like big and SHIB. Like people were seeing themselves getting trillions of tokens or billions of tokens for very small dollar amounts. And that was, in my opinion, really what hit with a lot of normal people is because they were spending thousands of dollars and getting billions of SHIB. There's unit bias there. So that's kind of a pro to having a good number figured out. Richard used to talk about this all the time. He felt like the Hex number, quantity of tokens in existence as they did X is where they were headed. He thought he had that really well figured out. I think he does have that really well figured out. He actually has that figured out pretty well with PulseX and PulseChain as well. And pTGC and UFO supply is roughly right in that zone for that same reason, right? I definitely agree with Richard there that you want to be around this zone. So as you start doing X is you start working your way towards a penny, 10 cents to $1, because those numbers are very, very easy for people to understand.
Yeah.
And then they can look at their own personal wallets and associate that with growth, right? For an example, Banana and Amanda, you've been using the JIC bag, the just in case bag, and people could be like, oh, I only want 1 million or 10 million in that bag, depending on what finances they have free. Well, someone can very easily make a bag and get 1 million in there, and they can say, if pTGC just gets to $1, that's $1 million right there. And possibly, at that point, I do believe that would be somewhat true in what could be like the next serious store of value system on chain.
Yeah.
Without question.
I was thinking about this today, that unit bias, now in relation to Pulse and the big push I think that Richard is starting with his new chain, and that is to get it to a penny. I mean, if he can get it to a penny, I think for the average consumer, I mean, it's almost like the flip side of unit bias. Yes, you can get less tokens for $1, but it's more relatable when it's a penny or 10 cents. They can do the math in their heads much more easily. And I think there's merit to that argument also.
Yeah, the nice thing about PulseChain too is a lot of people won't understand that it has an increased supply, and it's a direct fork of Ethereum. So I do think a lot of people, knowing that it will be probably advertised as a fork of Ethereum, and the fact that you're early and it's not 10 years old, they'll also most likely look at the fact that it's a penny or a tenth of a penny and relate that to what Ethereum is at that time as well too.
There you go.
Which is a little bit manipulated, but let's be honest, Richard has been known to manipulate these numbers as far as market cap and stuff like that.
Think?
Yeah. So I think there's some play there, right? And is it a fair play that, but again, this is kind of the play even that SHIB used. People are getting billions of SHIBs for a very cheap amount, thinking that, oh my gosh, if this goes to just a cent, I'll never have to work again. But it was already, top 6 token in all of crypto.
I mean, is it unfair play if they come onto the world's best blockchain? Really?
Yeah, Richard used to bring that up a lot too, as a lot of his marketing strategies are the same marketing strategies that scam coins use to get your attention.
Sure.
Why? Because you have to play those games to get people's attention. You're just tricking them into possibly the best product.
Yeah. So
you're helping them. You're you're making them fumble into possibly saving their whole crypto wealth.
Mm-hmm. K. Hudson says, thoughts on the Pulse ecosystem topping approximately 5 months after the Bitcoin top like Hex did in 2021. I'm game. I think that's definitely a possibility. I think PulseChain might be one of the last chains to run. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think obviously Richard knows what to do. And the first round, what he did was very, very successful as far as X's go. So if you've kind of done it once and it works very, very well, I would imagine his plan would be very similar, right? I didn't double check that the Hex top was 5 months exactly after the Bitcoin top. So, I'm taking that word for it. I don't know that exact thing, but if that's what he did in the past, and it obviously worked very well for him, I assume it's going to be very similar in this play as well. But that's just, again, my guess, just like he was guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks to me like right now, like the system. If I had to give you my assessment, the system is forming a cup and handle formation. 100%. If you go to the weekly, it went back up to that 3084 point, and we've created a new channel here. And with any uptick of the blockchain, we're very quickly, in my opinion, going to be in new all-time highs. Because the system's just going to keep generating more money and putting it into the system, getting those tokens out of there. You're going to continue to generate more users, more holders. And currently right now, we are on the USD chart. We're only about 42% away from previous all-time high. So you can see on the weekly chart, when you zoom out, you got this massive cup, wick up, hit resistance. And for 2 weeks now, we're just sitting in a new channel, oscillating in a new channel. And, you guys all know, once pTGC does a new wick up and finds a new channel, what is it doing in that new channel, just based on how the mechanics of the system works?
Right.
It's that energy building up under the system. It's that energy. It's like the volcano I always put in the TG. It's just rumbling underneath the system, right? Right now, we're at a position where in the market, not only is the system building up again, but it looks like the cores are massively building energy underneath of it. When that double whammy hits, it just explodes to the upside to a completely different level. I really don't think we have a lot of time left before that happens, guys. It's amazing just watching the system come in, every 2 or 3 days, and just removing 30 million pTGC out of there into the dead address. 25,000, 30,000, just literally these coins they're just being removed forever. I don't think, Zen, that people really realize the reality of a system that generates millions of dollars in PulseChain, and all it can do is remove the tokens out of supply. And every time it does that, it gives more value to the current holders. It raises the percentage of the yield pool that they're in, because those tokens are miners and they've just gone offline forever, But when you look on the weekly chart of Grays right now, guys, you can see that it's sitting in a new channel, and it's starting to go sideways in a new channel. Anything to the upside, we're 42% away from a new all-time high.
Well, one of the unique things about those token burns, Mando, is that everybody gets a raise in the system, because the supply has been sent to the dead address, and that's supply that will raise our position in the whole ecosystem. So everybody got a little bit of boost, and we got more rewards, because those tokens will never earn reflections or staking rewards ever again.
Well, that is the boost, right? And for anybody who's been holding their principal, you can, especially since we bottomed and started going back up, you can definitely sense an uptick, not only in your position in rank in the Block Explorer, because distribution's massively been happening, but you can feel that you're earning that extra yield, because those tokens have gone offline as people have been selling and just relinquishing their positions. The killer whales just been buying it up and sending it to the dead address. The tokens in the dead address cannot produce yield. All the yield only goes to live tokens. So every single time you see a post that says, hey, the killer whale just took $30,000 of tokens out of supply, well, whatever percentage of yield those tokens could have actually garnered are now given to you guys, because those tokens are now offline. The system's never going to stop doing this.
Yeah, I think another important one to pay attention to, Mando, is the tokens that get bought and then burnt. That value is getting pushed into the liquidity pool, like the existing liquidity web, just like any buyer. Just like if you onboarded your friend and he came in with, for an example, in the last 24 hours, it's been like roughly $6,000. That's like if you just onboarded someone today, $6,000, and that PLS automatically gets put into the liquidity web. But we have to remember the tokens that are getting sent to the debt address, they will never take their share of the liquidity, right? With a standard protocol, when you're buying at the bottom, like let's even rewind to a month ago, 2 months ago, when we're at the bottom, right? And we were buying and burning. I think it was roughly like $1 million of pTGC we bought and burned. If that happened from a human, eventually those tokens would claim their share of the liquidity. But the fact that it was the debt address that was accumulating, pushing the PLS into liquidity, but then removing the supply, that leaves the remaining tokens that are in the liquidity pool only for the remaining amount of holders, right? You don't have to share the liquidity with that 12% of supply that's in the debt address, which I think that's very powerful also on top of the fact that you're increasing your APY percentage as well.
Powerful, man. There ain't nothing like that. I mean, and
Yeah,
the great thing is there's big metrics, right, where when it's undervalued, and the killer whale just goes to extra work.
Well, yeah, if you think of like a standard token, right, when the discount comes, and you're definitely stoked when holders take advantage of that discount, especially if it's new holders because they can help onboard. But the honest truth is eventually those people who took advantage of the discount, a good portion of that does come out of the chart eventually when that user takes profits or DCAs it out. You know what I mean? We definitely hope everyone stays for a very long time or stays forever, right? This is perfect world scenario, but we have to be realistic. When someone buys a dip, usually they hit a point eventually where it's time to take some profits. The debt address is never going to take profits. It's never going to DCA out. It's never going to sell. When the debt address buys dips, that's literally a person buying who loses their keys technically. That's the best buyer you want. Besides the fact that the debt address technically isn't telling a buddy in onboarding, that's really cool about new onboards. But I think the debt address kind of onboards as well because new users see what's happening, and if they can comprehend it, they possibly take positions in the protocol due to the strength of the system behind the protocol. But I think the best example of a protocol who does buybacks at strategic points is BNB. Like, I don't know of, and I even think, correct me if I'm wrong, but BNB is also inflationary at times. So they're not like truly just like deflationary to where it's a capped supply and it has to reduce. I think it's inflationary, but then they also do buybacks when they've generated revenue from their centralized exchange and they can bring it back to them and buy up their asset at discounts. And then obviously they don't do those buybacks when it's at higher points. They kind of play that ebb and flow. I could be completely wrong on that. So someone could, say, hey, you're right, or you're wrong. But my point is we're fully deflationary. Every single day, there is less and less supply. It is very, very scarce. Only 2% of it on the market. And the code is getting at that 2% every single day. I personally don't know of an asset in real life that you can relate that to that's survived or that's been around for a long period of time. Pretty much everything that's scarce that I can think of in the world isn't hyper-deflationary, or a lot of it is actually inflationary.
$4.3 billion tokens, according to the website, are in supply right now. Is that correct?
In supply or in liquidity? You're saying liquidity.
Yeah.
Are you on Kong's side or the PulseTGC?
No, I'm on the PulseTGC.
Kong's site has the actual number.
Let's see what that is. Prairie, do you have that?
I'm looking it up. Where on the dashboard is that, Zen?
It's under view charts
Oh,
on the
okay.
top right corner, I believe, of the pTGC market metrics section. And then you go down to, I would look it up, but I'm not logged on to a premium account on my phone. And you need the premium account to see that metric.
Okay, I'm looking for it.
And then I think there's a liquidity tab, and I think it shows the quantity within that liquidity tab.
It's like 8 billion or.
Yeah, I think it's around 7. So I think it's like right over 2%. Do you know where that drop down is, Banana?
No, no, I don't.
So it's go to the market metrics. If that's the title
On the dashboard, right?
the dashboard. Yeah, that's where it shows like PTGC is up 1.75% today. It shows the 200,000 in volume.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
On
yeah.
the top right corner
Yep.
of the box, you
Okay.
should be able to hit that. And then I think the first box that appears is like volume or something like that. And there's a drop down to where you can look at a bunch of different stats.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, it starts with price.
Okay.
You want to look at pooled tokens in LP?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
Yeah, if you're not playing with all these little charts on your weekly stream, this is a good one to look at.
It
See,
is.
There's a lot of fun charts in there.
Yeah, man, this site is amazing. It's 8.3 billion. There are 8.3 billion PTDC in that LP. Not in that LP, but probably in various LPs, right?
Yeah, that's all the LP pools.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's how much PTGC of supply is liquid on the market. So pretty much over 2%, getting close to 3%.
Okay. Yeah, I'm scrolling through some of these other charts that he's got built in here, like transactions. We had a lot more transaction last week.
Any questions? Anybody else want to come up and chime in?
No questions on YouTube, but Paul Sachs reminded everybody to go vote on Pulse Folio. And by the way, it's PLS Folio, plsfolio.com. And if you guys want a direct link, it's in the Telegram. We pinned it earlier today. Vote for both PTDC and UFO. I think we're going to take the top row within 3 weeks. That's what I've been able to determine. If we keep the pressure on, we'll take it in 3 weeks. I don't know what we're going to do with number one, the number one spot. But once we have the top row, then we can kind of let the pressure off. And I'll just keep a gauge on the competition, if you will. And we'll turn up the heat if we ever need to. But until then, we got to keep the pressure on. We want that top row.
Last I looked, Grays was in the top row.
PTDC is. But there's somebody between PTDC and UFO right now that we're trying to upset. Not upset. Their emotions upset them in the ranking. And I don't think it's, like I said, I did a screenshot of the rankings and put it into ChatGPT. I'm like, how, because I have some records. I've been keeping records for a few days. And I was like, ChatGPT, how many days will it be before we can upset this token? And it's like 21 days. I'm like, cool. Let's go.
What needs to go is PulseChain. That's what needs to go.
It'll go. You know what I'm thinking about that thing is that I don't think it's going to be a slow go. I mean, somehow I think the faster it goes, the faster PulseChain goes, the more eyeballs it's going to attract. And that's exactly what Richard Hart wants. So if he has anything to do with it, if he has any kind of influence, I think PulseChain is gonna go. That's my opinion. I think it needs to.
I personally think it's the opposite. I think it just needs to just get back to SAC rate really fast, and then it just needs to have a gradual move with the market.
Okay.
You know, it needs to outpace the market is what it needs to do. And then, you always have a parabolic move up at the end, But yeah, you don't want just a Elon Musk just moonshot, standing up. That's not reality.
That could actually cause people to, question the merit of the whole chain, actually. Possibly.
It's just not how you make a market. That's not what you do.
We're going to find out. We're going to live it, man. Everybody here is going to live that. We just got to be patient. Well, Zen.
Yeah, if we don't have anything else, we can shut it down a little bit early today. We've been going for an hour and a half, so that's not too bad for
a Monday. Usually the Mondays are a little bit more quiet, but definitely if anyone has any questions, comments, any questions on YouTube, feel free to put them in, come up. We'll kind of do a last call.
Because Zen's got to go play night pickleball.
Yeah.
Hey, Gray, I'd like to throw something out. So if anybody saw, there's a lot of FUD this last week around pTGC not being deflationary. And I just want to say that there are actually 4 burn mechanics on pTGC. So you have the contract doing the burn, you have the DAO doing the burn, you have locking doing a burn, and you have UFO doing a burn. So you got 4 burn mechanics.
And a static supply, and there's never any inflation.
Yep.
It's amazing how people talk about a system. So it's amazing how people talk and they have no clue what they're talking about, right? It's just crazy to me, man.
Yeah, I saw a lot of your comments around that, so thank you, Mando.
I'm the bulldog, man. I'm the one out there in the trenches freaking knocking all these dumbasses. It's like every comment is knocked down with just reality. And then it's like you don't even want to believe it. Like, oh, you're lying. I'm like, dude, it's just crazy, man,
I just got to wonder if some of those guys are farming for attention, for followers on X,
A lot of them are, man. But I'll be damned if I let anybody lie about what we've built and our community and what we're doing. I'm not going to let that happen. So I'll take the hits. I don't give a damn.
Silence is consent, man. I'm just compelled to say something. We don't got to get in a long argument and conversation, but I got to say something.
Yeah, thanks, T, for bringing that up, man. Zen, I am gonna take off. It's about 9 here. I'm actually gonna do a night gym workout. So appreciate everybody. Have a good Monday night.
See you, Mando.
Take care, guys.
See you, Mando.
Thanks for coming in, Mando.
Yep.
Yeah, if no one has anything else, I'm down to shut it down and, everyone can carry on with their night. But yeah, we had another great day. We had a great weekend. But I think just a couple days ago, we bought and burnt like $20,000-$30,000 in PTGC. Just today, we bought and burnt 5,000, and looks like we did roughly a $25,000 LP added burn with Hex. So machine's running great. We've definitely been taking advantage of these cheap discounts on PulseChain for the last 2 years. What that's going to equal in the future, I think, is it's going to create a very sustainable environment for our growth over time. Definitely been hard, right? I think everyone wanted it a little quicker, but what it's actually done for our ecosystem's long-term success, I think, isn't something to overlook. So let's just take each day, take each week, take each month as a gift. The lower the price goes on PulseChain, if it stays stagnant, if it goes up a little bit, if it bounces around, this is just more time for our system to be even more deflationary and build these LP pools for our future. Very quickly, these discounts on pTGC, on UFO, on Hex, PulseX, Pulse, these assets that we believe will be very successful stores of value in the future, very rapidly these prices can be gone forever. So yeah, it is hard waiting it out, but I think definitely the fact that we have a machine which generates revenue off of the volatility of the market, we get to use that revenue to strengthen the system long term via buy and burns and LP ads. We're not putting this time to waste, and I think that's the important thing to look at. The longer it takes, the more time we'll have to accumulate. If shorter comes sooner, awesome. Let's bring on the X's and let's bring on the increasing value of the value generating system.
Right on.
Cool, guys.
Okay, so I will be doing a presentation on the grays Wednesday. Everybody go vote at plsfolio.com. And Zen, I think you're doing a voice chat tomorrow, right, at like 3 p.m.
Yeah, voice chat, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tomorrow. It's non-recorded, so if any of you who don't want to be blasted on YouTube and just don't feel comfortable coming up and being recorded on these spaces, I do offer those VCs in our Telegram for the users who want a more private conversation, and you can, feel more open in a smaller group to kind of ask your questions and whatnot. We also go over some of the stats and stuff from looking to pTGC as well, if no one has any questions. So if you want, come in there, learn about the system, just hear the stats, ask any question, or just have a conversation about PulseChain in general with me. I am there either way. So if there's no questions, if you just want to have a good conversation, I appreciate that as well. What else? Another thing, when we do start getting some PLS movement, when PLS starts moving up, for me, that's a huge indication that value is starting to come over that bridge and come on the PulseChain. When we start to see PLS move up and that's a huge indication of value coming in. That means new people coming in. For our own ecosystem, this is the time we definitely want to be strong and educate people, be kind to people. Even though we're probably going to have nice X's and stuff like that, just keep working on building that bridge to new users and existing users on chain, being educational, being patient with them so we can actually take that value that's coming on chain and bring it to what I believe is a great product. There is going to be value flowing in that makes its way to bad products and possibly scams. Usually, if it makes its way to those kind of products, that value leaves the chain as soon as it comes, right? And this is going to create a hamster wheel effect. So in my opinion, a great goal is to, as this value is flowing in, let's try to bring it to great products on chain. This doesn't have to be solely pTGC and UFO. It could be PulseX, Hex, so on and so forth. But places where you think that value is going to be treated with respect and it has the possibility to remain on chain, because as more value remains on chain, it appreciates all sustainable assets on chain. And I think it is up to our own community to be loud and be proud when that time comes, and in the meantime as well, if we have the energy to do so.
Right on. Good call. We're going to win honorably.
Cool, guys. All right. See ya.
All right. See you, Zen. Okay, we're off off of the spaces. Right. Jonathan, are you still in there? Are you still there? 6208. Yeah, I've got some stuff. Just let me know if you're still there, Jonathan. I'll share some interesting stuff with you guys. 6280. And just keep this private. If you would, guys. This is all public, you know, and we don't need to beat anybody up, but since you guys asked, like, who is the number one spot on Pulsefolio? I'm not even going to use their name, but they've got like 260 wallets, and they're beating the pants off of everybody, and they're in the number one spot. 260 wallets. I don't even know if I should say anything more. Let's just not say anything more. I'm taking readings every day of where we are. I'll just show this to you. So I can see the progress and the resistance, if you will. Like, we need 564 to rank up, and that went up by almost 100 since yesterday against this token that supposedly has 260 wallet addresses. So something's up, and we don't need to pick a fight or anything like that, but we're tracking it. I'm going to track it for a few more days, and then we'll see what's up. You know, we need to be in that, at a minimum, we need to be in the top row. So, and it's all just a game at the end of the day, but we want to win. We want to be in the winner spot, top row, and preferably number one and number two. You need a song. Hey, Backwards Hat Dad needs a song idea. Let's see what you have to say. CVRE has not even $17,000 in trading volume in this last 24 hours. You know, they're a real estate tokenization coin or something like that. No, I'm all for that. I don't know all the details, but I'm not against them. I just want to be in that. If there's anything fishy going on, it needs to stop. PTGC burned 20,000 in the last 24 hours. The Prairie Banana, I need a song idea. Okay. And get your song ideas to Backwards Hat Dad. Let me see if I can come up with one. Song idea. All right. We're going to shut this down and go vote. And we'll see you guys. We'll see you around. Zen will be on Spaces tomorrow. Adios. Have a good night, guys.